Neurologist and a child and adolescent psychiatrist. Barry, I am...
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Bruce Perry. I am a developmental neurobiologist and a child and adolescent psychiatrist. Those of you who are too close may want to move back. You're safe back there. I can't read your minds that far away. I have 8 minutes to talk to you about brain development in a way that will make you want to go out and spend more time learning about brain development. And the reason that I am very, very happy to be here is that I think that if you learn a little bit about brain development, you will be able to take the current resources you have, use them in a more focal way, and have much healthier communities because you have much healthier children and families. Now that sounds like a wonderful thing, but I hope that if you take the time to read this one-page paper that we put together for another purpose, you'll see that that actually is something that makes a lot of sense. Now, I hesitate to put government and brain in the same sentence, but I think that it's extremely important that government understands what the brain is, how it works, how it grows. It is, after all, the brain that allows us to think, to walk, to talk, to feel, to love, to laugh, to be happy, to argue with each other, to come up with all those elaborate things that you guys come up to raise money with. It's your brain that allows you to do that. Our brain allows us to be humans. There are unique properties of the human brain which allow us to be connected to each other, which allow us to create, but there are also properties of the brain which can allow us to hate and to kill and to stalk and to rape. Those properties don't come from genetics. There's no biogenetic code to create a murderer. There's no biogenetic code to create a Michelangelo. Genetics is clearly very important in the way we function, but the experiences that determine whether or not you are going to be creative and contribute or be impaired and consume come from childhood. And not just all of childhood. All experience doesn't have equal value. The rate of change in the human brain in infancy and the malleability, the ability of the brain to soak in new information and organize itself in the infant is 10,000 times more powerful than it is in a 50-year-old person. It's easily 1,000 times more powerful than it is when somebody is 15. That's why all of you who've tried to work in the juvenile justice system or with adolescents who have problems with teenage pregnancy or problems with academics or problems with all of these social ills that we have to focus on, realize that it takes 1,000 man-hours of service to reverse 3 hours of bad early life experience. Now that sounds completely crazy, but the fact is that's the way the brain works. The brain at birth is undeveloped. And what makes it organize in a healthy, flexible fashion is healthy, flexible experience. Let me take a moment and talk a little bit about the brain in abstract. The brain isn't just one big blob that does all these things. It has different components. It has different parts that do different things. And each one of these parts has a set of connections with other parts of the brain, and when you have a healthy brain, they all work together in an integrated fashion. But at birth, you don't have the ability to walk, you don't have the ability to talk, you don't have the ability to think. Only the lowest, most primitive part of the brain, the part of the brain that controls heart rate and blood pressure, has been organized. And it is through consistent, predictable, nurturing experience that the capacity to regulate sleep and appetite gets built in the first 6 weeks. And then that part of the brain, because the brainstem is healthy, oh, I'm sorry I used a word like, I'm sorry, forget that. Don't be afraid, that word will not hurt you. The lower parts of the brain that regulate these more primitive functions really are the foundation upon which all other parts of the brain must develop. And that foundation, the foundational organization of the human brain is in place by age 3. So that in order for you to remedy something that happened, that malorganized at 2 or at 1, you have to literally deconstruct. You have to deorganize. Imagine what it would be like if you built a house where there was a wonderful foundation and a wonderful frame, and you put in the wiring and put in the plumbing and put in the carpets and put in the furniture and did all that stuff, and then somebody came by and said, you know what, I really want to change the plastic plumbing to lead plumbing. You would have to deconstruct the whole house. It would be much more expensive than if you had up front said, you know what, let's put in the right plumbing when we're organizing and building this house. Now, this has profound implications for all of the things you're talking about this whole week. Welfare, education, substance abuse problems, violence. All of these things are dramatically impacted by the foundational organization of the brain. And we can create consistent, predictable, nurturing, structured experiences that build in a healthy foundation, or we can have inconsistent, unpredictable, chaotic, and terrorizing experiences which build in a disorganized, non-empathic brain. Let me take one moment to just describe a little bit about how that can happen. Most of us don't think about it this way, but at birth, even though the infant is now physically separate, the infant is biologically linked to other human beings and to the primary caregiver. Biologically linked. When the mother looks in the eyes of the infant and touches the infant, there are biological things that happen in the brain. And those biological things that happen allow the brain to grow in a healthy way. So if a child is touched and looked at while it's fed and hummed to and rocked, that combination of sensory experience helps organize the brain in a healthy way. And just as there are parts of our brain that allow us to move our hands, and there are parts of our brain that allow us to think, there are parts of our brains that allow us to feel attached to other people. If you do not get that appropriate combination of early life touch and gaze into your eyes at the right time, the part of your brain that will allow you to be empathic, to be a good citizen, undevelops. It is, unfortunately, in many cases, of profound emotional neglect, irretrievably lost. Most of you, I think, can recall the visual images of the Romanian orphans. Remember those images? Those kids are not genetically that way. The reason that they are that way, the reason that they are physically small and that they rock and that they can't form appropriate relationships is because part of their brain is physically different by virtue of not having critical organizing experiences. And no matter what you do, you could bring every tutoring, you could send them to the best schools in the world, you could intervene out the wazoo. These kids have some of their potential irretrievably lost. We do this to our kids in this country all the time. We don't do it on purpose, but there are children right now who are being born today who, not by virtue of their genetics, but by virtue of the fact that they will get neglected, that they will not hear a lot of conversation, that they will not be touched in a certain way, that they will not have consistent times to go to sleep, that they will not have consistent response when they cry. These kids will have impulsive, disorganized brains. And when they get to be 5 and 6 and we put them in school, is it any surprise that they're going to have attention problems? Or is it any surprise that they're going to be behaviorally impulsive and more likely to be aggressive? Is it any surprise then that this failure to be able to take advantage of public education leads to self-esteem problems and then leads to primitive, immature problem solving that's violent by nature? None of this is a surprise. Sometimes I feel like I'm a politician out on the stump who has a one-issue campaign. that no matter what question anybody asks me about, I say, well, it's the brain, stupid. You can ask me about substance abuse, and I'll tell you, we can relate that right back to early life experiences and brain development. You can ask me about adolescent violence, and I'll say, hey, we can link that right back to early life experience and brain development. You can ask me about the loss, an economic issue, about the loss of taxpayers in the inner city. I say, you can link that right back to early life experiences and the deterioration of communities and the lack of appropriate caregivers to step in when the mom has to go to work. You can link this to violence. You can link this to creativity. Now, see, we're focusing on a lot of the bad things, but I would like you to keep in mind that in the same way that you can provide experiences that make the brain undeveloped and have impairments, there are also unrealized potentials. We can take children who aren't going to be abused, who aren't going to be neglected, and provide enrichment experiences that will make them even more socially connected, even brighter, even more creative, even more empathic. We can shift the entire curve by refocusing on the development of children. And if we do shift the curve, not only will we be decreasing the burden on society from all of these ills, but we will be increasing the productivity and the greatness of the society by more creativity, more creation, and the capacity to do new great things. Now, I'm just a shrink. I can't tell you exactly how to do this. I can tell you the concepts and I can tell you the principles, but you all have to go back and figure out how to translate that into policy. And I would like to say that there are a lot of people in my field, and there are a lot of people that have been put together in collaboration with what's going on with the Carnegie and with what Rob is doing, who are willing to participate in this process. We have to work together to find these answers. We can no longer have compartmentalization of information and expertise in our culture. We have to learn how to manage the information we have and rapidly use it in a way that helps our societies. We are in a resource diminishing situation, not just in the United States, but this has profound implications for what happens in other countries. Our capacity to engage in foreign trade and engage in foreign policy is dramatically influenced by the way they raise their kids. If any of you have any questions about this, I will talk about it some more, and I'd be happy to talk about it. Those of you who are interested in some of this stuff, you can go ahead and contact us or contact people through the other information that was provided. There are so many more things that I would like to say.
Talk about disease. Talk about disease and brain food. Those two.
Disease and brain food. What disease?
There was a disease.
Oh, right. Well, here, let me just try and Rob wants me to emphasize these 2 points. So I will. Literally, these early life experiences are nutritional. We don't think of touch and of eye contact and these other things as nutritional, but they literally are nutritional. In order for the baby to appropriately use the calories that it eats, there has to be a release of certain hormones. In order to get those hormones to be released, there has to be certain kinds of sensory stimulation. And in order to get that sensory stimulation, there has to be a certain pattern of touch and eye contact and sound that makes the brain release the stuff. It's nutritional. Experience grows the brain. It organizes and grows healthy brains. Was that good? Now, the other thing is,
let them think about it this way, because it's true.
now, when you're trying to communicate these concepts to...
I'm a director, I can't help it.
Well, I take good direction. One of the things that's been very frustrating for me in my field is that it's difficult. I mean, if it's hard for you all to grasp this, I look at this. I've been in Texas for 5 years, and I say y'all. I'm from North Dakota. So, moved to Texas, I say y'all. One of the things that's hard to communicate is that these are urgent public health issues. If there was a visible manifestation of the physical damage that went with abuse and neglect, there would be a tremendous public outcry. But because these things are not visible and frequently don't manifest in ways that are linked to childhood until someone is 10, 11, 12, 13. There's no connection between the two. We see children every day who have unrealized potential, not just because of the mental health issues, because I'm a mental health provider, but we see kids in regular classrooms. We see kids from my own family, unrealized potential, because we don't know this stuff and we don't think about these things in the ways that we should. And I think that if there was a virus, I mean, if there was a virus that caused 5,000 children a year to be impulsive, aggressive, act out, fail in school, and be permanently intellectually impaired, do you think that there would be a public health outcry? Absolutely. But we're doing that. This is what's happening. It's not a virus, but it is equally physical. It's an equally physical phenomenon that deserves aggressive public health attention. Was that okay?
That's it.
Cut.
One of the most informative studies, as they do